like to welcome everyone to the English Riviera Film Festival Women in Film panel, and I'm very excited to be joined by a group of lovely women who I should take a moment just to introduce myself. And I'm Grace, and I'm one of the judges this year at the film festival. I have a background in photography and film as well, and then I'll pass around to everybody here. So we've got Lucie first.
Hello, my name's Lucie Townsend and I'm a director. I've also produced, acted, done all sorts of other things in film, you name it. I'm one of those jack of all trades, master of none types. But my first feature film was Scary Crows, which came out in 2017. I'm working on another feature film that's starting shooting at the end of this month, which is another horror film.
Hello, I'm Victoria Lucie. I'm a professional actress, singer and model. I've done about 3 feature films. One of them's coming out this year at some point, who knows when, and a few little TV drama docs, lots of shorts and stuff like that. I love film, but my most recent job before Corona, I was in the West End in The Mousetraps.
I am Claire Bueno. I am a film journalist. I've written for Curzon magazine, 1001 Movies to See Before You Die. I report on the red carpet predominantly. So I've interviewed everybody from George Clooney to, Brad Pitt, Helen Mirren. So I've been very fortunate. I've got a company called Premier Scene where most of my reporting from the red carpet where we publish. It's like an online film magazine, and I'm also the producer of a documentary called Cleaning Up the Town, Remembering Ghostbusters, a retrospective documentary about Ghostbusters from 1984, and we're in post-production with our second documentary, Too Hot to Handle, Remembering Ghostbusters 2.
Hi, so I'm Annushka, and I'm actually a costume designer, and I've been working in costume for short films for about 4 or 5 years, but then I've also been working on some soaps in between in different roles within costume. I've also written and produced my first short film in the last year. So predominantly behind the screen. Going, ooh, why aren't you wearing your tie?
I'm Amanda Rowe, and with my husband Neil Rowe, we formed Rendered Pictures film company. We're based here in the southwest. And we've got out so far Robot World, sci-fi feature, and just recently released in July, Alien Outbreak, so it's out in the shops now, etc. And I'm a composer and producer as well.
Well, that's our lovely ladies. And the first question I was going to ask is, what first inspired you to get into film or theatre or anything like that? And I'm just going to pick Annushka to start.
Oh yeah, I started at a young age watching Beyonce and going, oh, I want to be her. And then she was Fox of Cleopatra, and I was like, I want to be an actress now too. And I actually went to stage school as a child for a couple of Saturdays, and then decided, you know what, I like the atmosphere, but I also like making clothes, looking at clothing, did a few things, talent shows, like a good gag of a wig falling off, and just evolved into, I ended up studying costume at university, and film was just so much more welcoming. There was so much more of a big community that was just going, we need to get this done. We need to just produce something with the bare minimums, because it was student films. And so I got into making very low budget, but as ambitious as we could, films. Okay, Lucie?
Oh, okay.
How about you?
I'm blessed with a very creative family, so I was kind of doomed to end up in something ridiculous. Been on the stage since I was about 4. Continued that through to drama school. At drama school, had some pretty spectacular setbacks, including ankle reconstruction surgery. So I switched to behind the camera, which is how I ended up directing. Still very heavily involved in speaking the actor language to people rather than just focusing on the camera, which I think sometimes people forget that actors need direction so they can actually, anyway. I think people get too bogged down sometimes in the camera side of life and forget the characters. But yeah, I kind of just always come from this kind of a background, so I'm very lucky in that respect. Amanda?
by default, I suppose. I'm from a musical background, my family's musical, but really just meeting Neil, who is all about filmmaking. He's a VFX artist, and just really meeting Neil, and this was always something he wanted to get into, and so we decided we would form our own company, and sort of I dabbled in it, and I do the music for our films, but again, I'm not really trained or anything like that, but I muddle through with the different MIDI systems and that I use. So yeah, that's really it. And my role really is to just do everything. So I kind of produce, I'll cast, I'll get the locations, and that's really what I do. I do anything I can do to help, really. And Victoria, have you?
It's really funny, isn't it? You're like, who's going to be next?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to say.
Right, I was just listening intently to it. Yeah, so I come from a hugely practical family, so I'm like the weird one that's pretending to be other people and stuff. But yeah, I realised I wanted to act when I was about 16, and when I left school, I didn't train, so I just worked from the bottom, and I'm Southwest myself, and I was like, I'm in Devon, and I don't know what to do, and I haven't got any qualifications. Why would anyone ever employ me? And I just figured it all out on my own, and casting websites, stuff like that. And I was really fortunate that my first film role was when I was 19, and it was in Dartmoor Killing, which was amazing because it was a feature film. I got to play the young version of the lead, so I was there for about 5 days, and basically the first time I walked on set, I was so excited because one, it's a feature film, but two, it's Dartmoor, like I grew up there, it's my world, So I walked on set, and I don't know if you guys felt it too, like I adore theatre too, but there was something about film that when I walked on, I was like, I feel at home now. Like I loved how every cog was part of this huge machine. Like you said, Annushka, like you are like this one little bit that does this job, and then everybody else does all the other jobs, and you just make this thing, and then that thing lasts forever. I just think it's just magic. I absolutely love it. So yeah, after day one, I was like, I want to spend the rest of my life on a film set. Yes, please. And the food's good. And Claire, obviously.
Oh, it's me. Well, I just kind of, I suppose I fell into it. I'd moved to London to do presenting, and I ended up working for this channel that was interviewing people on the red carpet. And so I was thrust in front of, these A-listers and people, emerging talent as well. And I just found all of them had this story of not everybody was kind of born into, film and acting royalty. There's a lot of people that have had to struggle and strive to get to where they are. And I just found their stories really interesting, and found that I hopefully had this natural aptitude for interviewing people and bringing those stories out. And then I work with my brother. He's behind the camera, he's the editor and cameraman, and he's very gifted at that, and he directed the documentary that we've done. And so we work very well together, and off the back of doing the red carpet stuff, him and I were like, well, why don't we join forces? And I found myself being really passionate about, once I'd spoken to all these filmmakers, being really passionate about film and the craft. So for me, and with what I do with Premier Scene, it's not about the celebrity. I don't care about, the love life and the romances. And I gained myself a reputation interviewing these people because I cared about their craft and I wanted to learn about it, and would ask hopefully different questions that were out of the box. And then, I don't know, Anthony and I, it just became this sort of natural evolution with what we've been doing, is to go and make our own films. So instead of, going on holiday, we would put all our money and what we earn into going away and making, traveling to the United States and making this film and being in control of what our own destiny, really. So for me, falling in love with film was, I've always enjoyed film, but I only kind of fell in love with it kind of later in life. And when I say later in life, I was kind of 30, 35, sort of 40. It's definitely something that's a passion and a driving force, and I'm happy that it's in my life, and I've kind of, you know, like I say, I stepped away from a very traditional way of life, going and having a job and a treadmill, and then taking this leap of faith that I wanted to change my destiny. And now I can kind of look back and go, I have lived a really good life while I've been within this industry in the arts and surrounded by creative people who support each other, and I really like that. So so that's a long version of it.
That's lovely, and I think it quite ties together with everyone's experiences. That I think no matter if you like fall into it by chance or whether you're roped in or you get that first taste from such an early age, is that everyone, I think sometimes more so than other industries, has a drive and a passion, whether they're, you know, a runner or whether they're the star or whether they're the main director or, you know, producer, music, everything, because you can't do the jobs without anyone feeding it in, and whether that's sharing or reporting or like you know, PR and things like that, then you wouldn't have your film. There's no good making it if you can't put it anywhere, and there's no good like casting it all if you've got nobody to film. So I think it's really interesting.
And it's such a difficult life that if you don't love this, then you're in trouble, really, because
you wouldn't do it.
It's the determination that drives you through the ups and downs and the undulations of very difficult times that, you know, all of us face. And it's not just women in film, it's men in film, you know, and we all have to sacrifice a lot for our craft and for something that we love.
I think it's almost a compulsion.
Yeah.
It's not something you necessarily choose to do, it's something that you couldn't not do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're so
right.
You could call it an addiction.
Yeah, stubbornness as well. Tenacity.
Definitely. But sometimes I think, you know, getting called bossy or whatever, sometimes there's, you know, you need to be stubborn in order to get things done, and particularly when there's so many challenges with this type of work, and sometimes those negative words are actually your strengths. And yeah, we should own them more.
Is that something that you feel like you've come across a lot in the whole time that you've been there, or is it that as you've come to pick it up, you've like embraced those terms a bit more?
A bit of both. I think I've been very blessed and not had too many problems myself, but I've come across a lot of other women who have had stories, and I've heard their stories and gone, oh okay, that's not pleasant. And yeah, I've taken it on board, their experiences, and been like, okay, I'm not gonna let myself get into that situation. But yeah, I think sometimes you do just have to grit your teeth and go through the weird, horrible moments and find that extra reserve and not be afraid to say your mind if things aren't going the right way. With film, if you've got the right team, everyone wants to get it done and everyone's pulling in the same direction, and sometimes you just have to remind them that you're on the same team and you are working towards the same thing. So I think sometimes it's just lack of communication. You've
got to have each other's backs as well, like the entire, like you say, like the film wouldn't work without every element. So if you don't have each other's backs, regardless of what gender you are, then it's not going to get done, is it? So you've got to support each other. So important. And it's like you say, because it's such a hard industry, and you're like, why am I doing this? Like, you've got to like be there, but fellow people that understand what it's like to be in this industry. Like without that support network, you know, it would be soul destroying. It would be horrible.
Absolutely.
You've always got to get a group that, even if they're in your department, but they're across the board, like on different productions, you just need to chat and talk to each other to be like, oh, we're all having the same problems. Yeah. Costume design is one of the areas that's also predominantly female.
Yeah.
So I don't know a single costume designer that hasn't probably been called bossy, but it's part of the job. You need to be telling people what you want, what they're doing wrong.
I think costume is such a really difficult role, as well as hair and makeup. I always spend a lot of time getting to know everyone on that team, because one, if you annoy them, they can make you look awful. So don't even go. Like, they hold the power, guys. But also, like, you're usually up against such time constraints. Like, as an actor, we get the luxury of, oh, can you just help me with this a little bit? Like, you seem to be like mollycoddled a little bit more, and I just feel like you don't get that in costume. I don't know if that's your experience. I'd hate to put words in your mouth, but I feel like, I'm sorry, they just had like 5 seconds to do everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where it depends which one you're doing. So obviously if you do feature film, you've got a lot more time. Everybody's got a lot more time.
Yeah.
There's less prep and less everything all around. But if you've got prep, like pre-production to do, that's when you feel it.
Yeah.
Whether, Claire, you end up getting a bit more of the question when you're questioning people or seeing parts of the film, or even in your own role, whether you see some of that reflected either on the red carpet or because I know there's quite a few that do the rounds on the internet when you see all the questions that women are asked versus the questions that men are asked, and men are asked, oh, how did you prepare for that role, is it amazing? And the women are asked, what was your costume like? How did you fit in it? Or what diet did you have to go on? And it'll be, and I was wondering whether anyone's had any of those, or particularly at you, Claire, whether you've seen some of those reflections on the red carpet or through stuff that you do.
Oh. There's kind of more. That sort of depends on the kind of magazine or outlet that's interviewing that specific person, and then what those kind of questions that would be geared. I mean, I've seen, oh gosh, what was his name? I've seen personal questions be asked to Tim Burton, and that was shocking. But I've seen that also asked to somebody like Kirsten Dunst. So I haven't seen any kind of sort of gender specific sort of questions on the red carpet. If you're talking to somebody like Cate Blanchett and the amazing costumes, say from Cinderella that she wore, then there's those kind of questions. But then equally, I could talk to Carl Urban about being on the set of Dread, and he's you can't see his face because he's wearing that helmet, and that costume is part of who that character is. So you're going to talk to him about not being able. How do you interact and get your emotion and emote across when nobody can see your face? You're having to do it through body language. So it's horses for courses, really.
It's interesting. I feel like from a perspective of gender, it's really interesting. Like, I've had something. Men are great. Just going to put that out there. And so are women. But I've had really horrible experiences, and I've had absolutely wonderful, respectful, brilliant experiences. And I feel like you say, that's not necessarily a gender thing, it's just a personality thing. Yeah. And I think actually I've just decided in this, and like you say, a lot of the time it is quite male dominated, but I've decided in this industry to in life, that actually I'll just get on with you and make my own opinion about you depending on whether you're a nice person or not, and whether I agree with your values, rather than whether you're a man or woman or other or yet to decide. It's quite, I think that's quite a liberating feeling.
We all have to be respectful to each other, don't we?
Yeah.
And respect our roles and where we are and what we all have to contribute. It's just common human decency.
Yeah. I think we're all really nice, decent people, so we're all like, yeah, great.
Yeah, this is where I more think about like the struggle it was to break in and how we were perceived. Really,
well, that struggle is about,
as a woman,
nepotism goes a long way in this business, and if you are very well connected, then you find it much easier, or you've got lots of money, where you don't. Most of us have had to juggle 2 jobs to make ends meet while trying to pursue your creativity and work on the projects you're passionate about. You know, it takes a long time to get to the point where you're able to work full-time as a filmmaker when you haven't got people opening the doors for you. You know, I grew up in Torquay, and you know, and I had nobody opening the doors for me. Everything I did when I moved up to London and then the films that we've made was because of sheer determination, hard work, and fighting for survival. And you know, any success now, I can sort of look back and go, well, I worked for that and the mortgage money.
Going on from that, I don't know if this is too personal a question to ask anyone, but as a woman, I had like a quarter life crisis recently, and I was like, I've got to start thinking about whether I want a family or not in the next 5 to 10 years. Oh my gosh, this is terrifying. And I don't know how you feel about, like, for me, there's this innate fear, and I guess it's because I'm self-employed, and, you know, especially in this current climate, which is really scary, that the industry is obviously really, really hurting, and we can't do anything about it. And I was thinking about this for a really long time. I said, what happens if and when I do want to start a family? How on earth do I juggle that? Like, because you're self-employed, you don't get like the help you'd usually get, and like I just think, how would I actually physically survive if that's something I want to do? I just didn't know if any of you have a family, or if any of you are in the same boat. I didn't know if you had any ideas, because that's very female specific, obviously, because you grow a human. So I just wondered if anyone had any thoughts on that.
I love the fact that you phrase it, you grow a human. That's beautiful.
It's pretty impressive.
But yeah.
Well, I've grown 2, so I've got 2. And it's hard. That's it. It's just hard. You're just juggling. And obviously, the limited money you make anyway, you're then looking at childcare costs on top of everything as well. As well, you know, trying to get out and doing the job or filming on set, you're just constantly. That's another factor then when you're trying to organise your filming days or everything else. It's also that. And I mean, I was leaving set early sometimes just to get back for the school runs and the nursery run. You just have to factor in. And if your day is just, it goes on sometimes because you can't factor in everything. If you get a bit of a delay on set, sometimes I would just have to just go and abandon the set and leave it to Neil and you know, his brother that was on there as well, and just had to do that. It's just one of those things. It's gutting because I was having a lovely day on the set. I loved it, but it was just that choice. You got to go back and get your kids. I can't just you know, leave for much longer. And then added costs if you don't hit the times you meant to pick them up. You see, you get charged more. So yeah, you've just got to factor in your budget a little bit as well. It's always childcare costs. And
do you ever take them on set?
Sorry.
Do you ever take them on set? Are they ever?
No, we tend to. Sorry, I've got Sam now, but Jake was on last film because he was at school, and also I've got a day job as well. So we're sort of doing it on my days off, or we're using the school hours a little bit as well to our benefit. And then there's after school clubs you can book in on those particular days. So yeah, so he didn't come out. He didn't really come out just because of time and just generally energy. It's just so tired to have him on set. It'd be quite hard work, to be perfectly frank. So yeah, I sort of kept it separate, and then so that's how it worked.
Oh my gosh, it can be done though. That's nice.
Yeah, it's hard. That's very hard.
Yeah, I've seen producers doing features that have got kids on set, but either very, very small or are in school. But I haven't seen it as easily managed in other professions, sort of like other departments and things. So I don't know if it lends itself easier to some than others, but it is. There are people doing it. There are women out there who are raising families and making films, and they must be Wonder Women at organising.
But it's like anything, though, is if it has to be done, you manage it and you make it work. You can't change anything once that's happened, and you really want to be making that film, producing films. We want to have this life, so you just make it work and you find a way. You just have to, don't you? So you just keep on going. Yeah.
Strangely enough, I find sometimes having a limitation of like, this is a deadline that has to be happened, sometimes helpful when you're trying to like organise schedules and stuff. It's like, well, that has to be here, so it can't move. So if I have to pick them up at this time, then that's that. Yeah. And it's almost easier to do like everything else around it when you have a fixed point. But
yeah, it's true.
Because otherwise you get blank page syndrome, or at least I do. Like, too many options.
Costume has a very specific viewpoint because we've got a lot of women that give up career or give up a family to have a career, or are just, they have to approach it in a very, very chilled out way where they are doing a freelance job and then time with the family, and they take breaks. And sometimes that means that I know somebody that is still paying a mortgage well into their 60s because they've done children as well, whereas other people have been working, they've told their husband or partner when they marry late that they are never wanting kids because they want the job and they're staying for the job. But then you could also still be replaced by somebody younger when the job has been your whole life. We've got a lot of, there's a lot of bitter women in costume.
Interesting.
And in this industry, like, because it is very female led as a lot of things, we have conversations where there will actually be people judging you if you choose to have kids, or it's like, you got pregnant, oh my god, she doesn't care about this job as much. It can be quite toxic when you are just women thinking about it, because so many people put forward that the job is the most important thing.
That's really hard. That's
Yeah,
like, like all on, that's really, really hard. Like, I couldn't, wow.
It does go back to the whole women not necessarily being supportive of each other thing. Sometimes we do tear each other down a lot, and particularly in male dominated industries. I don't think there's enough time in the day to start ripping into each other.
I feel like that in auditions. I always feel like I tend to, I'm just like that weird one that will just talk to people in the audition room. So sorry if that's ever been anyone. Because I just feel like there can be this really weird, especially like commercial auditions, because you're all there because you all look the same-ish. So you're all there and you're like, okay, so there's like 30 other me's here. One of us is going to get the job. Let's not be horrible to each other in the process. Like, me being nice or me being horrible is not going to change whether I get the job or they get the job. Like, so why does it matter? I always think that you can walk into this audition, this like waiting room, and everyone's sat there just like silently judging each other. And I think actually we're all just terrified because it's scary, and you're just sat opposite your competition.
Yeah, absolutely. They want the job. They want the job, and quite often they desperately need the money.
Absolutely. And I think it's just so much nicer to smile at someone or say, oh, hi, how you doing? What time are you in? Oh, cool. Like, hope you're all right. Yeah, I'm just a bit nervous on it. Just break that ice, because you just think it's not going to make any difference to the result at the end of the day. And you might as well have a nice experience and talk to a nice person instead of sit there feeling self-conscious that there's loads of other yous everywhere. Yeah, it's really weird.
I definitely find that a lot more in smaller films. If you are working in something shorter and smaller, then you have a lot more camaraderie, where you can just turn up and say hi to almost anybody.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I've said this to a couple of people though, that I feel like there's all the creative minds that there are in this sort of industry, that if we're going to find a way around Corona or things that are going to chuck everything, there's so many creative heads that will be trying to problem solve, whether that's literally just balancing how do I get through the next 6 to 8 months, or what that looks like, or whether it's like actually tackling stuff. I think whilst it's been a roller coaster of a ride, I think, coronavirus, but I think it's given us some opportunity. That's what I look for, the positives that will come out from it. I think tied with bits is that this reevaluation of, okay, cool, I think this is going to be my drive and I'm going to make it work, and I've survived now this 6 months where everything's slowing down, and that will push forward some more creative thinking. So I have faith in us in some way.
Well, I have a massive headache because I've been working on a blooming Corona risk assessment form all day.
Oh God. We have to survive though. I feel like, we're talking about it all the time. Everyone I talk to, that not necessarily in the creative field, is like, but we have to, because I feel like without entertainment, what do we have? We don't have any escapism. If you took away Netflix, online streaming of plays, books, films, radio, gaming, music, whatever, anything that's created, like you've got nothing left for escapism. So people in lockdown, everyone who was shut indoors, they wouldn't have had anything. They wouldn't have had a single thing to just forget for a minute. And I just think if people can't realize the importance of these industries now, then that would be, I just don't think that can happen. I think people have, even people that maybe didn't before definitely have now, and actually it has to survive, and it has to come back stronger. Like, I've just got all the faith that it will. It just might take a while and it might be horrible.
The golden era of Hollywood was the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
Everyone's kind of got that, obviously it's not as awful, but that kind of wartime mentality at the moment, that survival instincts kicked back in, and people are determined. I think it's made people so much more ambitious.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few posts of all of the Facebook groups that people are trying to get in now because they're thinking, they are reevaluating that they want to do this and join it.
Yeah, I think I'd probably include myself in this because I've had that that more time. But it is like, it's balancing of jobs, allowing yourself to have that creative freedom, and then when you pick it up in the off time, and then you like scribble down something, or you go out and you take like photos for me, or scout somewhere, or do something like that, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I do really enjoy it now that I've had a little bit more time, because I've managed to, usually I commute for about an hour to get into my job, and now that I've got that time back, it is like, oh, look what I've done with those 2 hours, and I really enjoyed it again, and I'm like, oh, but this is it's becoming quite addictive. Like, I need this in my life. And it is that reevaluation that I think is going to be good for the
I told you it's a compulsion.
it is, I think it's nice, and having opportunities like this just lets me indulge in it a little bit more. And I was gonna slightly bring it back round again to I know, Victoria, you've slightly touched on this already, but if anyone had a particular like magic moment of that's there, that like that is my need, like, or that is like, oh, potentially just I put on a costume, or I sewed on a bead, or that like anything that you thought, like that moment right there, like that's really why I do this. That's quite a nasty question.
I remember having a moment a bit like that, where I thought, you know, I'd changed my life around, and so it was a red carpet occasion, and I'd always had a thing about George Clooney. You know, I remember seeing him in From Dusk Till Dawn and thinking, oh my God, who's this guy? He's gorgeous, you know. And I was living in Torbay. I was working in a computer department. I worked at Torbay Hospital, or I might have even, no, I wasn't actually. I was an outpatients receptionist. That's where I was back then. And just like, you know, cut to 12 years later, something like that, I was stood on this red carpet interviewing him, and, you know, holding my own, so professionally engaging with him and having a laugh. I was flirting, I'm not going to say I wasn't, you know, and there was, you know, that banter and flirting going back, and I just remember thinking, oh my God, you know, I was 35 when I decided to up sticks, change my life and change my destiny. And it was that moment of like, you know, if you're prepared to work hard and put your money where your mouth is, then, you know, who'd have thought back when I was working at outpatient reception, I'd be interviewing him. I mean, it was just, you know, it's ridiculous. I'm not connected to the film industry. So for me, that was a real kind of, and the fact that I'd held myself, you know, if anyone was going to make me lose my bottle, it was going to be stood in front of him, and I didn't. You know, professionally, I held it together and was very, you know, it was just the most magical moment. And for me, that was, I suppose, when I felt like, actually, you know what, I'm not saving lives by doing what I'm doing by any stretch of the imagination, but hopefully, you know, we all need a bit of entertainment, don't we? And I want to be able to share those his stories and other people's inspirational stories, because if I can do it and they can do it, anyone can do it, surely.
Similarly, it's about the connection to people.
Yes.
I was auditioning for a short film that I was directing, and there was an elderly character in it who has a very difficult scene where she has to pretty much pass away on screen, and this woman just blew me away with her backstory. So the character is breaking away from her family, who's very Christian, very, you know, traditional, and she wants to be she's much more of the Buddhist theme, and she wants to be reincarnated, and she's telling her grandson her plans about how she's going to come back reincarnated, which is very, oh, shouldn't be telling her grandson that kind of thing in the story. And then this woman tells me that she actually was a vicar, and that she refound her connection to Christianity from a Buddhist monk. And I was like, what? And she just told me this fantastic story about how she was traveling in Indonesia somewhere, and she had this like spiritual reawakening through having this conversation with a Buddhist monk. And I'm like, wow, she really taught me something about it, because obviously I had no expectation from her to have that sort of like wealth of connection to this very short role. And it was a real sort of like, wow, you really do get to meet the most amazing people when you get to work in this kind of thing, because you just never know what their stories are going to be. And
it's the people that make the industry, I think. You just have, you know, you meet like-minded people. You all want to make something, whether it's just to entertain people, whether it's to teach people something. Again, like the medium of film, I think, you know, a film can stick with you forever, and a film can educate like nothing else. Because if you watch a film about a specific person and their journey, about something maybe something you didn't even know happened or could happen, you know, that can absolutely change your mindset forever. And I think that's so immensely powerful, because having a list of facts and having a real person's story that you can watch, like we'd all choose to watch the person because it's so much more real. And I just think, like you say, it's such an amazing industry, because not only do you all create something that then people can learn from and experience, but collectively, but you also work with a load of people that have all come from everywhere. Like I've had, you know, you have the honor of working with people that have come from every single background. They've, you know, so many different jobs and life experiences, yet you're all there for the same reason. I don't think there's any other job like it. I really don't.
Wow, great.
People.
This is where I very much did come from an idea of thinking about education, but like I mentioned with the Beyonce thing, mine focus and the costume focus is about character and having underrepresented characters on screen and behind the camera. That's the reason that I try harder than some people, because I know what I look like. And I also am aware that there's not that many role models. Like there's a scary amount of female lead roles that are written very similar, that we just suddenly aspire to, this is what we have to do, this is who we have to be. And then that's also done across the ethnic groups. That's like, it's very much, we are educating people, we put ourselves in the media industry. But this is also a choice that some of us make. Other people have gone in and it's just the family job. So it's quite everybody has their reasons, that's different.
Yeah, so I'm fairly new to the industry. I think probably since 2011 really, and then 2015 sort of got our first feature out. So I'm very new to it, and I've only done small productions because we're only a very small team. But what I found down here in the Southwest particularly, so we've worked with some lovely actors and actresses down here, and we don't really know who's who or what the scene is at all, but just genuinely started linking up with actors and getting them on board and having some crew members, and you know, we would then need some more cast, and everyone would just give us their experience or give us names of anyone else that would be suitable for certain parts, or if we needed help with a special effects artist, you know, they would get someone in contact with us. And so yeah, definitely down here I've really noticed the network, and there's lots going on. I didn't realise now, stepping into this scene and needing help to get things off the ground and that. And everyone is just so helpful, and yeah, so I feel we've got a really good network down here, definitely. And it's on those days when I'm with those actors and crew, and you know, I never in any world thought I would be on a film set, which, you know, I'm a TV addict, I love watching my films, but I never thought that I'd get involved in that side of things. So yeah, when I'm on set, that's the best bit for me. I love it, and just being there and seeing it all happen and just go through things. It's all iconic, isn't it? You see all these films being made, all this behind the scenes stuff, and it's just great to see it and be part of it. I'd like to be part of a great big Hollywood film one day, but that'll have to wait, I think. Maybe one day.
You do have to just go where the work is, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I say, I've had amazing opportunities in Devon as well, though. Like, I mean, brilliant theatre productions, brilliant, like my first ever film. Like, there are beautiful things that happen in Devon as well. But like you say, you can go away and learn more and then bring them back and nurture them.
Yeah.
And you never lose that you're from the Southwest, because I think it's gaining popularity, like, with the pole darks and the, you know, we're getting there, we're in good place.
London's great, but this is one of those things where we're just like, we probably never met each other before. We'll probably go on to work with each other, because
hopefully,
a small network that is Devon, and we always welcome new people.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place.
I know that there's a community out there, really.
Love the Devon, the Torbay, and John linking the English Riviera Film Festival is so nice, because I've been a judge for 2 years now, and just the amount of films that have come in that are just like locally, but then also people who are like from different countries all over, is really exciting. That is that draw, and there is, even if it's like location based and things like that, that's coming up, like you say, the pole darks. And I know, Amanda, your film, I believe, is like all locally.
Yeah, Dartmoor, Plymouth, Exeter, you know, yeah, and same with the first film, you know, just the Dartmoor landscape just lends it to the sci-fi apocalyptic films that we do. So it's just, and it's on our doorstep, it's just beautiful out there.
I'm slightly conscious of time as well now, so I was just gonna end it with one. Well, firstly, thank you all for being here and discussing, and it's been really interesting and lovely just to hear everybody talk about their experiences and everything. And so I hope that everyone else enjoys it as much as I have.
Thank you all it's lovely to meet you all, and thank you for sharing your stories.
And I was only going to leave you with one last horrible question: is a maximum of 5, I'll give you that. A quick fire, what's your favourite film?
Who's first?
I won't say it's my favourite film, but the film that had the biggest impact on me with regards to how powerful cinema is was Coriolanus with Ralph Fiennes. I think it was his directorial debut. And that performance on screen was just immense. And I came out of the cinema with goose pimples, and I just couldn't speak, because I was just so in awe of his performance and the power of the film, and just a work of art. And it lingered with me, and for me, I suppose so it's not my favorite film, but it's definitely the one that's had amazing impact on me.
I'll go Casablanca, Shawshank Redemption, Hot Fuzz, and A Life Less Ordinary.
That's a stellar list.
Well, and everything in between.
Victoria?
I'm so unused to people calling me Victoria. I don't feel like I'm in trouble. No, it's fine. I was going to say Shawshank as well, because you can't not. It's just phenomenal. Any movie with Tom Hanks in. But some favourites: Captain Phillips, Catch Me If You Can, and oh my God, what's the other one?
Big, please.
Oh, Big's
Big,
amazing.
yeah. Oh, and the Burbs, man. I mean, that's just ace.
One of the biggest impacting ones is because I can't stop thinking about, like, when you mentioned an impacting one. Oh gosh, I've forgotten who performs in it, but it's called Buried, and it's just one man for the whole film.
Is it Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I have never watched something that crushed me as much as that film did. So if you haven't watched it, please do, because it's not fun. It's not an enjoyable experience at all. But I remember watching it, not quite knowing what I was getting myself in for, and I walked away and went, "Well, that's one of the most powerful things I've ever seen." Like it actually like hurts me to think about it. So that one, and for a light relief, Love Actually.
Oh yes.
So many times. My dad has it on repeat every Christmas, like literally
I
on
love that.
Love it.
That's good. Annushka, what's your favourite?
So I'd say What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh God, that's amazing.
So yeah, like I love comedy, and I'm in costume because of characters. Love somebody that's just getting into it and going like,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
have fun with it. And you can tell that was probably an amazing set to work on, and everybody's just bouncing. So it doesn't, for me, it doesn't have to be astoundingly intellectual or big or anything. But also my most favourite for the beauty of it is The Fall.
Oh, I've not seen this.
So it's got Aiko Ishioka, beautiful costumes, and it's about a storyteller who's telling a story to a little girl.
What's your favourite, Grace?
Oh, it's hard. I think for the look and the fact that it was one of my favourite books is Wes Anderson's Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic.
Just love it, and the voices and the characters, and I love animals, so.
And we all love George Clooney. Hello.
Yeah, another one. There he is again. But it's just, I love the colour palette and everything, and it's just like, watch that. I could watch that over and over again, and I just would still.
And was made in the UK. It was all made in the UK. With the stop motion animators, I think in the East End somewhere. Yeah. There you go. East End of London, sorry, I should say. But there you go. Yeah, British made.
Nice. They did Isle of Dogs here as well, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah, I think they did. They probably did it at the same studios. I'm trying to think where it is now.
Wasn't that Hardman? I thought. No.
No, Aardman is.
Isle of Dogs, I thought it was.
No, both Wes
No,
Anderson.
Isle of Dogs is Wes Anderson.
Oh, right.
I've still not seen that.
I haven't either. Is it good?
I enjoy Wes Anderson films, so I'm going to say yes no matter what, but I did really enjoy it. I did really enjoy it. I remember just being completely enthralled by it, but I get really taken in by the imagery and the like everything. But I'm really bad, like I'm a kid, when I sit in front of a screen and there's a good film and it's got me, like the whole house could fall down, I'd still be like just in the moment. But I really enjoyed it.
It's a great story, and still very authentic to, you know, Roald Dahl's book. He actually wrote it, didn't he? Here we go. I'm going to give you more information than you probably want, but he actually went to Roald Dahl's house and sat in, you know, Roald Dahl had a shed, and he sat and wrote Fantastic Mr. Fox in the shed.
I've got Roald Dahl's like one of his like not children friendly books here.
Yeah.
And I was quite interested in reading. I mean, I have got a bookshelf full of about 12 years worth of unread books, we counted. But one of them, his one, that one's called Madness, but he wrote like quite a few different ones that were different emotions, I think. And they're like ones that, you know, not for kids. So I think, very interesting person.
I'm very aware that it's also getting a little later as the night draws in, and so I think I will wrap it up there, but I hope that there'll be an opportunity for us to either meet again, whether that be virtually or at the film festival, if fingers crossed, in some sort of way. But thank you very much, each of you, for giving up your evening and talking to me and each other. And
Nice to meet you,
Okay.
It was lovely to meet you all. Thank you so much.
And you.
Likewise.
Cheers. Yeah.
Bye.